instruction that Links got recently to give you some, give you a design of something that would help you put pressure on your vehicles. In other words, for a long time, we have said we want to complete this task as quickly as we can, and you as class members have said that you want to complete the task as quickly as you can. But for the most part, the pressure that has been put on you as far as things that needed to be corrected and changed in your gaining control of your vehicles, for the most part, the pressure has been put on by Links. And for the most part, as individuals, you haven't put pressure on your vehicles' correction, your pressure on yourselves in correcting your vehicles. Now, we were given an instruction that since at this late date, in these last days, since we are still having things occur that are extremely out of place occurring, that we were given instruction to design a method that would permit you to put pressure on your vehicles to correct these areas that should not be happening at this time. Now, we're going to mix several topics here. One I want to throw in right now is some of the members of this class are older than other members of the class. That doesn't mean that there are some that are 6 and some that are 8, or that it would be easy to document that there are 2 groups or there are 3 groups, but the distance of age between some of the class is pretty apparent. We don't know if we would need to spell it out to you, or you can recognize it. But it doesn't mean that some who are older are exactly the same age as some others who are older. But if T and O felt any need to, we could say to you, we could go down the list of your class and say, this one seems to be a little older. This one seems to be a little younger, but pushing awfully hard to try to go very fast. And this one seems to be younger. And the reason we're telling you this is because as some of you recognize, let's say that as some of the older ones recognize in some of the younger ones, older means only that you've had a little bit more experience. That you're simply a little older and you've had a little bit more experience in certain areas. And now, as some of the older ones recognize that some of the younger ones haven't had quite the experience that they have. Now, we're not talking about age of vehicles, we're talking about age of minds, because there's no parallel at all. Some of the class members who have very young vehicles are older than some who have older vehicles. So there's no parallel there. But we don't want any of those who might be older class members to look down their nose at some of the younger ones or feel like there's something special because they might be a little older or suspect that they are. Nor do we want some of the younger ones to feel like they are lesser simply because they're younger. There's no better or worse. But the importance of this is that these characteristics that that seem to be required of you to have under control before we can leave, all of you are equally capable of having those characteristics under control. Has nothing to do with some being younger or older. All of you had those characteristics in hand in the next level before coming on this task. Without exception, all of you. So the characteristics that we have been given instruction to require of you before we leave are characteristics that are already in your next level mind and that must be brought into your consciousness. so that you can hold on to them. And so this, we told the ones at the Northcraft, and they're going to tell the ones at the Southcraft today when we call them, that Lynx is going to have the option to give as much as 1 to 3 warnings before we might register what we would call a strike on a mistake or an offense of conduct or action that should be adhered to at this time. Now, let me say that again. Let's say that someone, you're always going to label these notes to us suspected strike. Like if Presota does something and she thinks it was a strike, she'll write a note to Lynx saying suspected strike. Or if someone observes her doing it and they think it was, it'll be a report that says suspected strike. Now we may get it, and in talking to Presota, may see that she didn't understand at all what was going on. And we may say, okay, now you do. Therefore, this is a warning. And the next time you do this, it will constitute a strike. But we're going to, I say in this instance, it might be that we would say to her the next time. In other words, we might give an individual up to 3 warnings in an area, depending upon their understanding, their comprehension, and the degree of the offense. You follow what we're saying? And but we still, it gets down to, you should look at it as, I'm not going to get struck. I'm not going to get struck. Don't think, well, then I have to fear getting a strike, and then I really have to fear getting a second one because I know the third one could constitute all kinds of things. Because one of the first questions that came to us, well, what is the third strike going to mean? And that shouldn't be where your concern is. That's like your vehicle wanting to know, because after it knows, then it'll determine how hard it's going to, how seriously it's going to take this project. You see what we're saying? In other words, if it isn't too severe, then I can relax a little because it won't be any different than we've been going along here for some time. So it has to be severe. Unfortunately, it has to be severe. And in a sense, it's giving a kind of motivation to you, a kind of fear motivation to you, that we feel like we really would rather we didn't have to give to you, and that we're only having to give it to you because you yourself have not put enough pressure on yourself to self-imposed deadlines on conquering certain characteristics that cannot be present when we're ready to go. And since we feel like you're capable of going very quickly, if these things are imposed and if they are adhered to, then we have to have some sort of mechanism to allow you to put the pressure on your vehicle to comply with. Now, you say, well, what is going to happen if we get through? Any number of things could happen. We haven't been given a pat answer to that. We could ask an individual to simply leave. We could ask an individual to take separate quarters down the street and find an out-of-craft task. And we'd help them best we could from a distance, but we couldn't have them in the craft. Now, I'm not saying that these are a couple of things, but it would be equally severe if you ask us for an example of what it might be. It has to be severe, or you're not going to be able to put the fear of God into your vehicle. And what you want is to put that fear of the next level into your vehicle, or you're not going to force it to correct these areas that are correctable. Now let's go over. Do you want to say something first?
If you all could realize what is needed at this time, in other words, the force that it's going to take to get your mind into your vehicle, the next level needs that force. Can you understand that? Because what happens as you exert the force that gets your mind into your vehicle, what happens to your strain that you are working with? It sends force out into the world. Now, we said...
the more force you put into that correction, the stronger force goes into that strain.
And we need it at this time. The next level needs it. So we can't take this as something that T and O have dreamed up to get you all to do your task. It isn't as simple as that. I wish it were. No, I don't wish it were either. I want to get out of here. But and another thing, we said that we need you all of you, to help do this task. If you don't do your task the way it has been designed, then you aren't any help to us at all. Do you understand that? Remember what I'm talking about? In other words, we said that the ones who dropped away, they should have stayed here to help us, and that we have 35 of you now, and plus our T&O, and we need all that we have. But if you're not doing your task, you aren't helping us at all. You might as well be out of the class. So it's still, we still need you, but we need you 100% of you, not just whatever you want to give to us. So remember that the two things, we need you, but we don't need you just to have your bodies around, because that's no help at all to us.
We don't need numbers. We need effort.
We need the one. And you all, what's so strange is you all have the ability to do it. And you all have to grow to know what we know as far as our knowing that we're from the next level. Now, you all may think you know that, but you don't. You're only on the outskirts of it. Now, it took us, I would say, about 3 years to get our mind into our vehicle where we knew who we were. Doesn't mean we were awakened. Now, you all have been here a mighty long time. And do you know for a fact who you are? Do you have enough of your mind in? And I'll answer you no, because you don't even have to examine it. Because all of you, I mean every one of you, are still walking with one foot in the gutter and one foot on the curb. You're walking lopsided. You are not 100% members of the next level yet, thinking and acting as a member of the next level. And therefore, you have to, this is what we're striving for. Now you can say, how can I get more mind into my vehicle? And we say, try to do every action as a member of the next level, not as your vehicle wants to do it. And once you do that, you will automatically get it in, get your mind in. But you have to want to do it. You can't do it by just assuming that the vehicle is going to respond and do an action as a member of the next level. There aren't. T&O can't even assume that. So why should you be able to assume? We constantly work at our vehicle. It is very easy for us. We have no battle with trying to do things as a human or as a member of the next level. But it flashes in our mind, to respond in a certain way, which happens just about automatically. But we're saying to you that you cannot, even after all these years, assume that everything that you do is going to be as a member of the next level. And it's beginning to show its face more and more. And we want things that you all need to work on, and we want you all to get your minds in so that you can handle it in the right way.
T and I had the radio in the car yesterday, and I heard for a moment as one fellow that was being interviewed about exercise and muscle building and so forth, and this man said that if you're trying to Not that we're interested in anybody building the muscles, because we aren't. We're trying to keep your circulation going. But he was talking about those who are interested in muscle building. And he said, no, if there's no pain, there's no gain. And I'm sure that you've heard that, you know. And the same is true in your effort. It's when your vehicle wants to do something and you resist it. And for that moment of resistance, there is a type of pain because there's conflict between the next level mind and the vehicle. And it takes a fight. And therefore, it's a moment of suffering, or sometimes more than a moment of suffering. But it's only when you win each one of those fights that you gain. In other words, you have to, it's like if I want to get up in the middle of the night, it's when I resist doing that I've made progress. But if I do it because my vehicle wants to do it, and it's against procedure, then I have not made gain in that way. Now, I want to get on another topic, and then we'll come back to this just a moment. Many of you still tune into what human vehicles think of on how to treat your vehicle if it's starting to give into a characteristic. And let's take we'll run a little parallel here a moment of sensuality with anger. We'll make those the same things for a moment, Rita. Not saying that anger is a form of sensuality. No, we're just going to run a parallel. Let's say that your vehicle is feeling it's getting aggravated, and you feel that building up in you, and it comes to the moment when you want to explode, either because someone has provoked you or the circumstances that surround you, and the exploding is letting something come out your mouth, or letting everyone know that you're so disturbed that you've disturbed them, whether anything does come out of your mouth, but you have let it hit the surface. Do you follow that? Well, many times we see that the way you all let it come out so easily, that your attitude must be, well, since it started, I might as well let it out. And to us, there's all the difference in the world on what you accomplish if you stop it right before it hits the surface. But this is an area that many of you have not learned to do in certain things, whether it be anger or let's turn the parallel over to sensuality. Let's say that my vehicle is excited in a sensuous way, and when I'm bathing or sleeping or something else, or I have to apply some medicine to it, and it seems to be stimulated, and I recognize that it's stimulated, but if I proceed and let that get to the surface and lose fluid, you see what I'm saying? Then I have done exactly the same thing. I have exploded. I have gotten rid of it. Now, and it's force. And it's force that can be utilized for change. In other words, each time I build anger or sensuality is building as a pressure in me, and I refuse to let it reach the surface, then it can be assimilated throughout me as energy and growth, because I did not let it explode. I did not let it reach the surface. So there's all the difference in the world between what you do once something begins to be stimulated and build, and in other words, there's all the difference in the world in catching it before it surfaces than having it present. I don't know if I'm getting it out. Do you understand what we're saying? Am I saying it?
Oh, yes. If you're if you let out any air out of the balloon, so to speak, you lose something. And you need that energy to go in to help your mind come into your vehicle. And this applies to the females too, with the help of
Oh,
the
yes.
In other words, it's not just for the males. And anytime you let out steam in any way, then you're losing that force that you need in your vehicle to do the task that you're here to do. It's almost a precious force.
It's almost as if you've been given that force as a medication to apply to an area that needs some medication. But if you spill the medicine, the injury becomes worse and has nothing to apply.
And the weakness can be anywhere. It can be anger, it can be sensuality, it can be irritability,
Those are
irritation.
just examples.
In other words, it's just, you may have a weakness in any area like that. And what you want to do is not allow it to come out.
See, I can understand when you're troubled and you're getting some medicine. I can understand, or T and O can understand, are getting a note and saying, things came on me so hard yesterday that I felt like I was going to explode. It was all I could do to contain it. And I feel like I slipped just by letting that much build in me. But I didn't let it out. We can understand you're experiencing that because you're getting medicine. Even if you wrote a note in terms of sensuality and said, goodness, my vehicle was so excited and so stimulated, and the next thing you knew, it felt like I was doing it, and I just barely realized that I could turn it around before it became a conclusion. Do you see what we're saying? And turning it around means stopping it, ceasing it, not letting one drop of force or pressure out of the balloon. Do you see what we're saying? But to write and say, I gave in to it again, to us means what happened in that space of time when you first recognized some pressure building and you exploded. You didn't apply any effort? That's what we can't understand. What happened to that space of time when the force began to build, and the time when what happened to the time between the beginning of the force and the explosion of the force? No effort was applied. It's pretty obvious that it wasn't. Do you see what we're saying? And we can't excuse that. You've got to, on these areas that we have zeroed in on these strikes, like using a check partner, there are many still in our class who use check partners very poorly and use them almost as a mockery. Go and get someone to act as a check partner who doesn't even know what the task is that you're doing. Like if you're getting somebody for vital signs or changing a brake shoe or something to be a check partner or to sign their name on a note when they don't even know what's transpired. That's making a mockery of procedure. That's not a genuine check partner. It's not even any better than not having a check partner. In other words, you've just forged check partner effort. You've just tried to comply with the paperwork, but you didn't do the effort. Now, a check partnership is something that every one of your minds knew how to do excellently before coming on this test. And why you're slow to force your vehicle into doing check partner work in the right way is, in your terms now, should be inexcusable. And you have got to not permit your vehicle to get away with not doing your check partner task in exactly the right way. You've got things like chocolate strawberries that we've used as an example. Being so quick to jump in and say, well, let's see, I remember Liv Odie got some chocolate strawberries at her task, and she, I believe, handed them out at her task, and Link said, "Why didn't you bring them back to the craft?" So I don't see why it wouldn't be okay for us to have chocolate strawberries at the craft. Those two topics don't add up to number 3. Liv Odie's getting them at her task and being told by Link, "Why didn't you bring the craft?" does not add up to let's pass them out in the craft. They don't even come anywhere close to it. Now, we did say the other day or yesterday, which was wrong, and we want to correct it, that what should have happened was that they should have been, the chocolate strawberries should have been sent to Links, and Links would decide what to do with them. And then you can apply another instruction. And I thought we were told not to send all these things to Links. That's true, you were. The right thing that should have happened is that the chocolate strawberries should have been brought to your craft, shelved, a note on the Link saying, "We've got these chocolate strawberries, what would you have us do with them?" That's what should have happened. Now, we think that we have had that kind of thing happen so many times that every single class member by now should know how to not make inappropriate parallels and be so free to exert the initiative to take chances on procedure. I don't see what would have been the harm. We can't understand the people in the craft. Not one of them saying, "I don't think Link has ever given us any chocolate strawberry." "Are you sure?" Link said. Not one person. They were more interested in having that chocolate strawberry than they were questioning whether or not it had been cleared.
We've never had a chocolate-covered strawberry.
I've never had one in this vehicle's life.
Don't even know why anybody even thinks that it's okay to consume it.
Now, we can't even imagine a chocolate strawberry being something that you could have unless you had a bowl of fresh strawberries in front of you and you dipped them in chocolate and had chocolate strawberries. Strawberries deteriorate very, very quickly. And we can't imagine how they would be kept fresh enough to be usable. But this isn't the point. The point is, why was it so necessary to consume that chocolate strawberry so quickly? Why was it more important to consume it than it was to check it out as whether it was right?
Now, just because that 3 people bring you a strawberry, something like this, it doesn't mean that you all have to go along with that 3. They don't have all the answers. In other words, the ones who were brought passed out a strawberry. Like if you questioned it, you should say, "I don't know that I've ever had this." Well, it's true you've had chocolate candy. But chocolate-covered strawberry is something you don't see in a box of candy. I've never seen a chocolate-covered strawberry. It's something new that they have just started. And it must be happening only in Austin because we haven't seen any at all here in Dallas.
Well, it's lazy minds. It's just not thinking.
You need to question it. And say, do we have to have it? Like, this brings on another thing that the ones in computer craft, is it computer craft? It sounds to me like they're consuming more and more what the humans there in that craft are consuming. Like one individual, I know there was about 3 or 4 days in a row, it seemed like, or notes that we got at one time, where he was consuming a sweet roll or something like that each day. And now they're starting to consume chocolate-covered strawberries, and going to a restaurant to eat regularly on a Saturday whenever they're work.
Don't we want to deceive?
In other words, what's wrong with taking your lunch on a Saturday or going home for an HP experience? We don't understand that kind of action creeping into your lifestyle. We don't. We understand it once in a while, like with Norrody having to go for meetings, but just to go to consume because the boss pays for the experiment doesn't jive in our mind.
Did we okay that
No, we did
that
not.
meal?
I don't.
See, Tia, don't neither one remember okay this meal circumstance any more than we remember okaying Sonodi's going to this conference or this whatever it was, this seminar that has recently come up, and she felt like, well, Link says okay similar things in the past, so
the report we got was that she said that Link had said that she could do anything that would help her in her work or go to these things. I don't see that.
She translated it that it would just be okay that anything that came up that would require going to some meeting or something, that it was okay, and it isn't. See, you don't start opening the door to the freedom that has not been thoroughly tested. In other words, in the next level, you only do procedures. You only do things that have come down the ranks, so to speak, to do. Now, it's true that the older that you get, those procedures grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, and there are more and more and more things that you will be doing. But it doesn't mean that the older you get, the more you start enlarging on those, or that you have the freedom to start adding to those. You don't add a single one. They all come down. Every one of them come down. And we have a major offense going on, like a disease in our crafts now, of taking initiative and liberty to do things that has not been cleared.
If Link was separated from you, it would be different.
If we didn't talk to you on the phone nearly every day and see at your retreat, in other words, the things that you've made decisions on, they weren't things that were so important that somebody was going to lose their task, right? Or that you couldn't shelve until you got a phone call from Link, or until a retreat crew could bring the notes up and be answered. None of them were so emergency that they had to be acted upon before you heard from Link.
Now, another judgment that has just come up, but it's been corrected, but we want to use it as an example, and that was with Habodi's new job. We walked in to the North Craft the day that he had been offered that job, and he told us that he would be required to go to his bank on Thursday once a week, and they could use the company car, which we said, well, that's okay. Well, it turned out the company didn't have a company car, and it was left up to the craft to supply transportation for him to go to the bank. Now, nothing was mentioned to us except in a note saying how they would handle it. And the thing of it is, because Sonodi had used the craft car to go to the bank, but in a sense it was entirely different, because it was after she got off work that she went to the bank, isn't it right? You all didn't have to supply a car in the middle of the day to take her to the bank, in which we didn't particularly want to do it, but for her, but under the circumstances, we said it was okay. But if she could work out something else, it would be best to do that. But because we agreed for somebody to do it, they felt like it would be okay for our craft to supply a car in the middle of the day to take Habodi to the bank once a week. Now, first thing, Habodi isn't paid enough for us to do something like that. Second, the time element is more important. And we would never have you all go out, take a job, and have to interrupt the class activities just to do a task for the place that you work. In other words, you should get a job where it doesn't require the craft to be in the business.
Plus, we have a procedure that if you're taking an out-of-craft task, that you find out before accepting the task all the needs of it, and if the car question comes up, you immediately let them know you have no car.
And if they say
And this
that,
was not done. The procedure was broken.
If you don't, if they won't accept that, then you don't take that job.
That's right. It's that simple.
And but the point we're getting at is they didn't have to make that decision right then. First, Odie should have told them immediately. I'm sorry, I don't have a car. I'm in a carpool, and I would have to. I don't think I could get anybody over here to at that time of the day to take me. So I guess I can't take the job. You know, it's as simple as that. Or let's say that since he didn't tell them that, then there wasn't an emergency in the class that they had to go ahead with something. In other words, they didn't have to set up something because Link's calls on the phone. And this is something that you would question with Link. We read about it in a note. No one, I don't know if they mentioned ahead of time to us, I can't remember, but I don't think they did. We read it in a note, and we told them last week, answered it last week, and those are some of the examples that we're talking about,
right,
where you're making judgments, and you're affecting everybody in the class. When you don't make judgments like that, it's the same thing with what happened to Sorority. Well, because we let Melody go to the Sheraton and told her to go in the back door and all like that, he thought it would be okay for him to go to the Sheraton, which he didn't even, we had talked to him the night before, and nothing was mentioned.
Didn't bring it up to us.
We read it in the notes after the retreat people had gotten here. And we called.
And he could say, well, he forgot to bring it up when we talked to him. But this is the important thing. If you have enough mind in there, the important things stay on your memory. If you have enough mind in there, the things that, like I feel like the crew today and wanting to do the car, that since Lynx had said, would you do the polishing job on the car, to drop that from your memory should, in your estimation, be a very serious offense. Because your mind, anything you have to do with Lynx or an older member has a very strong priority of staying on the surface of your memory.
That was an insult.
Yes,
it didn't mean that much to you, so I just let it drop.
In other words, you can't let your vehicle get away with saying, well, I forgot to do this or I forgot to do that. The only reason you forgot is because your next level mind wasn't that strong enough to keep your priorities where they belong. Now, we want all of you all, as you listen to this tape, number one, to know that T&O are not mad at you. We are not down on you. We are trying to help you. We're trying to help you put pressure on getting your next level mind in your vehicles adequately enough to comply with certain necessary qualifications for our departure. We feel that we may be given a few more, we don't know. But these that we have said, like outbursts and not using a check partner and not using enough caution in making decisions that would have given you an opportunity to check out first. That things like that and the other things we've given you on this strike list are basic necessities for all of you to have under control before we can leave. And that there's not one person in the class who is not capable, actually very easily capable, of keeping all of those elements on the straight and narrow. And for you to let your vehicle get away with less than those basic requirements is very on again and off again, curb and gutter type living. Now, just because we have talked, I feel like I have talked with an awful amount of force, and it could be misinterpreted as anger or whatever, and it isn't at all. But we are desperate. T&O are desperate for you to be desperate. We are desperate for you to not want to complete this task and return to the next level, but to want to do the things that it takes to find that task completed. You see, you can't be like a person who wants the degree and isn't willing to do the work. You've got to want to do the work, and the degree is the reward you get. Do you see what we're saying? So you can't want the reward, you want the accomplishment. We hope that you will take this extremely seriously. We hope that you will not let your vehicles, now initially they may cause you more trouble because they're going to feel the pressure. And they will try to do things and pull numbers on your hips, maybe that they've been holding as aces in the holes that they haven't pulled on you before. And we don't care. And you shouldn't care. Because all we care is we want this task accomplished the way it should be accomplished. Now, we're reviewing just a little bit, so don't forget the task that you are on is serving the world tremendously. But the next level still is more concerned with how you as its members can improve yourself during this task. That the primary purpose, if it had to be divided into primary and secondary, we are recognizing that we were wrong, even though it served a purpose for you for a while, for us to think that your primary purpose was for the world. We realize that still what it takes from you in forcing enough mind in to have those vehicles under control in order to comply with certain basic elements of conduct and control is for your sake and the next level. If you can exert enough effort to get your mind in to have the elements under control, you'll be able to be of considerable more service to the next level. Having grown by that effort and that experience, and in the process of doing it, you automatically serve the world tremendously with that programming and that effort for their future growth.
You've got to remember also that you are capable of doing this task. Your vehicle may con you into believing that you can, and it may even be thinking about walking out the door because it doesn't want to tackle this, or you feel convinced, your vehicle convinces you that you can't cover it, but we say that it can. Now, an example, let's use a little illustration. Let's say, because I want you to see how Leek feels about you all. Let's say that Doe is teaching, he's in the world, he's teaching a postgraduate course on voice. Do they have them?
Sure.
And everybody who comes to his class has already graduated with a degree in music or voice, whatever they have when they do this. And he knows that everybody who comes into his class knows how to sing and knows a lot about music. So when the class comes in, he doesn't have to go back to the basic things to teach them how to carry a tune or to do the scale or read music. They already know it. Okay? Now this is where you are. You all know this stuff. And it's high time you learn to realize that you do. You've been conned by your vehicle. You have been listening to them more than you listen to your mind. And so it's time now that you say to yourself, vehicle, I'm taking the lead. This is your mind talking. Vehicle, I'm taking the lead. T and Doe know that I know what they're talking about. But you're conning me into believing that I don't understand half of what they say. Now, you've got to believe us when we say this, because it is the truth that you know what we are talking about. And it's only your vehicle that doesn't know it. Now, there are some older members here, not old members, but you're not little babies. like we used to say you were. You are, some are older than the others, and but it's still, even the youngest ones here know it. That's like this, not knowing these basic things that we're trying to get you all to do. They are so simple. And as soon as you all realize it, the better it is. But your dumb vehicles come into believing that you can't overcome sensuality, you can't overcome curt remarks, you can't overcome irritability, you can't overcome not working with a check partner. It's so childish that it doesn't really make any sense in my mind.
One thing there, that when T said, like, your vehicle has a notion it can't overcome these things, have we ever said that overcoming to us equals control? Now, your vehicle may con you into saying, well, since I still have that to deal with, then I'm not overcoming it. That's not true. If you have it under control, that's what you must do. We're not asking we're not saying that you can wipe out all that genetic weakness or development that has been going on for generations in that vehicle. But we say that you can recognize those areas of genetic weakness in those vehicles, and that you can control them. And that these areas that we are trying to zero in now on, you all knew how to function in those ways before you came on this task. And we're not hyping you up. We know that you know it. And they're elementary basics. Now, one other thing, and then we'll stop it, is we know you're capable of thinking a little deeper than you think about things that we give you to do. For example, we recently took Cadoti off of some tasks and said one thing that he can't do is take initiative, instigate things, because he needs to have the experience of learning. Next thing we know, but we left him on dentist and on grounds and getting pressed up at the clinic.
We took him off of Stat 3 duties.
We took him off of Stat 3 and lab duty. But the next thing we know, some of the members in his craft are telling us that he has gone against what he should be doing because he took initiative on grounds. We didn't take him off of on grounds. How's he going to be on grounds and not take initiative? Is he supposed to sit back until somebody else comes and do it? Now, it's true that I think Glenodi's on grounds, and Glenodi should take as much initiative, certainly, as Cadoti. But it doesn't mean that Cadoti has broken what we have given him to do if he's continuing to take initiative and on ground. He can't take initiative in things that are not his task. And he can't make suggestions or criticisms, you see, while he's going through this period. But in other words, you could have taken what we had said and reasoned it out a little bit more and not immediately find that the fault or taken that initiative thing and translated it to, if he asked somebody to go out and do on work on the ground, said, he's exerting initiative, which is now he's banned from. Do you see that? What if he let's carry that all the way? Then he's not going to get anybody at the dentist that he has a problem with. So, because who's going to take the initiative? When he's the one that knows those schedules and has set that up.
And we would never get any vitamins if he didn't take the initiative to call the vitamins.
Yes. Now, why was it right to say that he was wrong on taking initiative on grounds when you were able to figure out that he still needed to exert the initiative on vitamins and dentists? You see what we're saying? You're capable of thinking things out more than you're thinking them out.
Of course, he did do something in that check partner batch.
Yes.
I think one of the things was his taking initiative, which doesn't define this way.
Well, we may have sounded kind of strong only because we want you to sound strong as you force your vehicles to get these basics behind you. Now, this period We are not going to permit you, if we can help it, during this period of zeroing in on these characteristics to make it a downer period. Do you see what I'm saying? Yes. In other words, just because we want you to put more pressure on your vehicles and we want you to not let your vehicle get away with not using a check partner, we will not let your vehicle get away with not being cautious and restrained when it comes to drawing parallels or making judgments or decisions or not putting things off that you could have checked with links first about, or explosions, outbursts, the other things on our little list, and we might add to that list. But this is not going to be an excuse for unhappiness or for downers in your craft. Your vehicle, anytime that you start requiring more of it, it automatically wants to throw in unhappiness, because you're making it do something it didn't want to do, and it's not happy about it. But you be in those vehicles strong enough to make your crafts more pleasant and more happy than they have ever been during this time of getting these elements under control.
Now, this push is happening at a time when the next level feels like you have grown enough into your minds to be able to do it. Do you understand that? In other words, you have enough mind already into your vehicle, but you need to get some more in for this last push. Now, if we find that it's going to cause people trouble, downers and depression and feeling like you can't do it and all like that, then we can drop it. But, of course, you know what happens if we drop it. We can't accomplish the task at this time.
You can just, you know what it would be to return to drop it? It would it would be to almost as if to say to the next level, well, let's see if we can't just, improve a little as we go along on a time schedule that we can handle better. And in other words, it's almost testing the longevity of your vehicles, even, or some of our vehicles. We feel like Link's vehicles are being challenged at this point of having this task extend. And we don't want to find ourselves in that situation for more reasons than, or it's not from a human standpoint that we're concerned.
If we can't, in my mind, if you all can't take this and try to do something about it, it means that you really don't want to leave. You're too comfortable in this condition.
In this environment.
It's as simple as that.
That's right.
And in other words, you're too content if you have an out-of-craft job. You like it too well. You like the people you work with. You like the things that you do much more than you want to get out of here. And
in other words, the vehicle is a lot more in control.
That means the vehicle is in more control. So you need to examine it and not listen to the vehicle. If the vehicle is giving you all that, just tell it to cool it or to be quiet. That you're taking charge now, and it's time that you take over the task of running the vehicle totally. It's simple as that.
As you do the kind of work that T's talking about on your vehicle, even your vehicle changes so much that your vehicle, in other words, you've let your vehicle in on wisdom that had your mind not been possessing this vehicle, it would have never had. And part of that wisdom is of showing it how primitive this garden and its ways are. And your vehicle can actually see it. I know that my vehicle has even become miserable here. Even my vehicle has become miserable here. Not only is my mind miserable in this environment, but my vehicle has adapted so much of my mind that it's miserable in this environment. It couldn't think of anything that the world has to offer out there that it could find satisfaction in or anything worth hanging around to do. In other words, my vehicle. The other day, as T and I were driving along, I had a funny feeling that my vehicle, at a moment when I was, some tapes were trying to play or some kind of bombardment, someone was coming in for just a second, it was like my vehicle was saying to my mind, "Oh, mind, come on back in here more, or come in more strongly, and stop those tapes." You know, instead of my mind saying, "Vehicle, stop those tapes," it was like my vehicle was my vehicle's joined me to a degree of saying, "I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to." It's like I know that if those tapes play, my vibrations will change, and I don't want my vibrations to change. So it's like my vehicle was saying, "Oh, mind, can't you come back in here a little stronger, and help me shut those off?"
In other words, the vehicle was stopping the tape.
The vehicle was stopping the tape, and your vehicles can cooperate with you. Your vehicles can accept a degree of what you know, even though they aren't built to serve in the function of your mind, because they're still primitive. They still can adopt so much of it that they can see how primitive this place is. We drive an automobile that is probably as comfortable as almost any automobile this world is capable of having now. We live in quarters, probably as comfortable as any, and they are all uncomfortable to us. They are all, and this doesn't mean that we're uppity. It means that the best this world has to offer is so inadequate for our minds. Because don't forget, what we're talking about in next level terms is a real physical existence. You follow what we're saying? And T and Do have had to do some traveling in the last few days, a couple times. And the roads the best roads are so primitive they beat you to death, even if the vehicle is supposed to be a comfortable vehicle. They don't make a vehicle that's comfortable. They don't make roads that are comfortable, because that's where this world is in its development level. They don't make crafts that are comfortable. They haven't grown enough mentally to take in all the considerations it would take to make it comfortable, because they're still too primitive in their understanding. But the more your next level mind comes in, the more it is totally out of sorts here. And just having to make do while it does its task. This doesn't mean that we're unhappy with our craft or the automobile. Do you understand what we're saying? It just means that we know that so much mind is in that we can see that how primitive it would be, or how primitive it is.
What Do is trying to say is the ones of you who have out-of-craft tasks, or all of you in the class, you can't be if you're satisfied with what you have and you're really enjoying it. That's an indication right there that your mind isn't into your
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not saying T and Do. I'm saying that you all have been in the next level. Your next level mind, as they come in, would not find any pleasure in being in the company of humans, or not find any pleasure at your out-of-craft task, or not want to do the things that they do. This doesn't mean that you can't find pleasure in the way that we would have you find pleasure in it, like if we send you on a task. Do you follow what we're saying? But you wouldn't find pleasure in it in the way humans find pleasure in it, because your next level mind, the more it comes in, finds that it is in such a primitive environment.
When people grow to know what we're talking about quickly, if you do what we ask you to do.
I guess we better stop.
Okay.
The P.S. for the tape that we forgot about is, like I think one of the things we have on our list of things you can get strikes in is lethargy. And part of lethargy is sleeping at the most inappropriate times, like when you're listening to a tape that your teachers have given. when we give you all tapes, we feel like the information that we have to give to you is extremely precious and extremely potent and important. And we don't come over and make up things to put on tape to try to stimulate you. If you think that's the level from where we're coming from, when we come to put something on tape, it's because we have just received something that we're extremely excited about. And if we had been asleep when receiving it, we would have just felt that that was unforgivable. We can't even think of such a thing as to have been asleep. And for you to sleep through a tape is a very serious offense, and certainly we should get a note about suspected strike so we can deal with you on it. Okay?
Yes, because in the tape earlier, did you cover about, I think you did, but I'm not sure if you covered it or not, did you say to them that you shouldn't want to get a strike or any warning?
Yes. Yes, but we can bring it up again. We said back at the beginning that where your head should be is not with your eye on, oops, I hope I don't get to that third strike. But your eye should be on, I'm going to take this so seriously that I'm going to think more carefully, more cautiously on these areas. I'm going to exert that effort. Now, I'm not going to get a strike. That's where your head has got to be, or should be. We don't want any of you willing to start mounting strikes and fearing number 3. We want you to just see this as a design to help you put the pressure on your vehicle, but that your next level mind is committed to not get that first one.
Now this is extremely important because knowing you as we know you and your next level mind, you will be very unhappy knowing that you got any strikes or any warnings against you once this task is over. You follow that? So we don't want you to suffer for no reason at all afterwards. So just don't get any strikes or warnings, okay? Now we won't give Des Doty that warning this time, but if it happens again, he will get a strike, right?
Well, to go through procedure, since he still has to write a note to us of a suspected strike, and we take it up with him. That's the way it has to happen.
So we're still waiting on a
Yes.
note from Des Doty.
Okay.